first off, I'd like to offer an apology to South Sudan for the disrespect
Here we go.
that I've given them, not having any knowledge about their team or their country. So right off the bat, I'd like to apologize that. I think a lot of my talk came off of the spread was 40 points. So, like, I've never seen a 40-point spread in a game. So, but, you know, I like to bring some things to light because South Sudan has some players that could possibly be playing in the NBA. And, you know, I had a chance to watch, sorry if I get you guys' name wrong. Wenyen Gabriel was actually in Celtics camp. He's played for the Lakers.
He played for the Lakers and it wasn't bad.
Yeah, he's definitely an NBA player.
Yep.
But the reason, like I said, you know, South Sudan hasn't really been on the map for that long. You know, so that's the reason for the jokes and, you know, or whatever. But, you know, when they got guys, they have prospects, you know, and you can't take that away from them. Gabriel Jones, G League MVP, 2023.
Carlik Jones. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Carlik Jones.
He's been in the league.
He's been in the league.
I have a feeling after this he'll be back in
gave him a triple-double. I mean, who's guarding him? I mean, no disrespect to him, but, like, he got a triple-double versus the USA team. Came in, Mulak, if I say it, 17-year-old going to Duke, NBA prospect. But
7'2".
7 foot, two. But, you know, you got to give a lot of credit, you know, and I did my research over the weekend. I apologize, and I'll be watching South Sudan more. Yeah. Because they were exciting to watch, and they really got my attention. Yeah. I didn't realize Luol Deng was from South Sudan or Manu Bol. Yeah. You know, so my lack of knowledge, I continue to apologize, you guys. But the reason they're at where they're at is because Luol. You know, he's put his own money into the basketball program and, you know, really developed something to make a name. And, you know, this is a country who we're gonna be seeing a lot of. And after that game, I was so impressed, Skip. And, you know, maybe it's something I said on Friday, put a battery in their back. And maybe Coach Royal Ivey, who's been in the NBA, who I played against, probably played what I said. And I'm glad they did. You know, because they need some light and some attention for what they're able to accomplish. And, you know, who would think that we would be talking about this in a loss? Yeah. In a loss. Yeah. You know, they lost the game, but they showed me something. They showed pride. And you know what this says to me also when I watched it? Another thing I thought of, it showed me the seismic shift in international play. You think about this, Skip, Rachel? There hasn't been an American MVP since 2017, 2018. Yep. American MVP player in the NBA, James Harden. Yep. This game opened my eyes to so many things about the international play, how they're not scared of the U.S., how they're catching up with different teams, and how players from around the country are just becoming NBA players. And think about this, the last two NBA drafts have featured players from France as a top pick. And it just shows you that the U.S., although as a whole, are more talented. As a whole, you know, from top to bottom. But when you look around the world, how much the game has grown, and players from every country, no matter what race, wherever, are learning the game. They're getting facilities, they're getting help, and they're catching up to us. And we can't even say we don't have the best player in the NBA is not from America. And so my hat's off to them, man, and definitely there is a concern. There's a concern for me. So in saying all that, the U.S. has some things. They got to look at this tape because the discipline, the shooting, the speed that South Sudan showed is something that U.S. should be concerned about. And they're going to need some help with their perimeter defense. And that's the one concern because I watched Serbia. If they had made their threes, that game would have been a lot closer. They had a lot of wide open threes. So there's definitely a concern for me with the USA team moving forward.
All right.
I'm so glad to finally hear you say that because this skip didn't create concern for me. As you know, I've been saying over and over, this will not be a cakewalk for Team USA. I still think they're going to win. They're the heavy favorites to win gold. But it is going to be tougher to get there than it ever has been before. And I think in this game, Team USA, frankly, took a little bit of the attitude that Paul had going into this game.
Yeah.
You know, they had played well against teams like Canada and Serbia, who were supposed to be big challenges to them. So, you know, they look at the spread too, and all of that. But that's where we are right now, that even teams that are undermanned, certainly against this team, if they get hot from three, there's always a good three-point shooter on almost every one of these teams, and we see how that can make all the difference, especially in a single elimination game. And if Team USA doesn't play defense the way we know all these players can, this kind of thing is going to happen. Yes, South Sudan looked great. It was, I mean, if you know what's been going on in that country over the years, it really was inspiring to see what they put out on the court. But it was helped by the fact that Team USA in the first half especially just wasn't playing defense anywhere near the level that any of those guys can play. And you know that Steve Kerr talked about it at halftime. He didn't start the starters after halftime. He put in a totally defensive-minded unit, and it made a big difference, and they buckled down in the second half, and LeBron James obviously made a huge difference in the second half. But I just don't think any team they face in this entire run you can take for granted.
Right. Okay, Paul Pierce, if memory serves, I think you bet me a dinner.
No, you didn't take the bet.
I took the bet.
You did not take the bet.
Wait.
No, you didn't take the bet.
That Team USA would win every game by more than 6 points. Remember, the six was the magic number against Australia. Remember that?
Right.
And I said, nope, I'll take that bet because I had a lot of chances that included the practice games and the real games.
Right.
And all of a sudden, that happened.
But you were scared to take the 40-point spread.
Not
this
we
game.
didn't even talk about that because it was like ridiculous. Like we didn't even discuss. But the previous game against Serbia, I backed off, and I shouldn't have backed off as far as I did.
They didn't cover the spread there either.
Okay, you got it. And by the way, against Australia, when they made their comeback, Patty Mills just couldn't buy a three. I'm watching him yesterday against France. He's making every three.
Right.
So better be careful if, in fact, they see Australia again because Patty Mills can just light you up, even at his advanced age. It feels like in basketball years, he's about 58 years old, but he still can play. All right, so South Sudan as a country is only 13 years of age. So that's why it was hard to take the whole thing very seriously. But when you look at a Carlik Jones, he was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, which I think is in the United States because his mother was from Sudan. Okay, so you had that connection that brought him back to his mother's homeland to play for their team, South Sudan. So he led the G League in scoring. He was the MVP of the G League. He's had his cups of coffee around the NBA. And to your point, I hope he's back just off that game alone. Because he went 15, 11, and 11.
Wow.
And that Maluch, who's going to Duke, I saw flashes where I say, wait a second, could he be the first pick?
Right.
He might. I think right now ESPN has him as the third overall pick going into next year. Okay, we'll see what happens when he goes to Duke. The point is, with Wenyen Gabriel, you've got some talent, and then it comes down to this. I'm going to say it again. These games especially, and you should appreciate this, they just become three-point shooting contests where they made 14 of 33 and we made 7 of 28. Well, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be close. If they outshoot you by 7 from the line, like your Boston Celtics would outshoot everybody from the line, you just have to do the math, and all of a sudden you say, uh-oh, that's 21 points more that they scored from the three-point line because they were hot and Steph was not hot. He was 3 of 9, and it's starting to feel like we kind of go as Steph sets the tone. You know, if he can get hot like he did against Serbia, then you're gold. You're gold in, right? Because he sets a tone that everybody can feed off. And yet it came down to LeBron. I got to say, LeBron played an extraordinary basketball game for his stage and age of his career because he looked.
The second half.
He was the best player on the floor.
Absolutely.
And so we come down to the last 2 plays, and I was applauding him because I've sat here for 20 years saying, just if it comes to this situation, just put your head down and drive it because nobody can keep you from the rim. And it seemed like this regular basketball season, the NBA season, he got more and more comfortable with, look, if they foul me, I'm going to go make those free throws, which he didn't used to be all that comfortable with. and make him shoot the free throws because they're down 1, so he'd have to make the 2 to win, 1 to tie, okay? So then it goes to the other end, and I'm like hiding my eyes because Carlik has the ball in his hands against Drew Holiday, and Gabriel gets the ball, and I don't know, it's crazy under there. You maybe
you could argue you got fouled right here on the putback, but they're not going to make that call at the end of the game.
They're not going to call that, right?
No.
Okay. So in the end, you step back and say, well, if we only make 7 threes, we're in danger, right? It just feels like that.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, they have to make shots, period.
Yep.
The three-point line is a little closer from what I believe in the NBA
it's a
line.
foot closer, yep.
Yeah, and so, you know, they have a number of shooters. So I think, but the main concern, you got to make threes is defensively for me. You know, the U.S. is a little older with LeBron and Curry out there. You know, those are the elder statesmen. And then think about this. If you bring KD back and you put him in the start line, you get older. So Curry's going to have to make some real interesting decisions on who to start because I think you're going to have to add a little more youth. And then you throw Embiid, who looks like sometimes he's about 35 years old, the way he moves. You know, you have to come to a tough decision to like, hey, do I go with some of my younger players who are more athletic that are better in making the rotations to these guys out for 3. And I think that's a decision Kerr is going to have to make instead of, hey, you know, I'm going to start these guys out of respect and then bring this other, like he started the defensive unit the second half. But, like, you don't want to put yourself in a hole like this against a very good team when the Olympics start and find yourself having to claw back once again like they did tonight because you could be in trouble if you continue going at it like at this rate. So I think there's going to be some difficult decisions that's going to be made in this starting lineup. Do you start Embiid? Do you start – well, there's no way you're not starting LeBron. Yes. There's no way you're not starting Curry. So I don't know what the answer is here. Do you say, hey, we're just going to do this anyway. We got enough depth and talent that we're gonna come back anyway if we do.
Well, last week your mantra was just close your eyes and pick 5 and they'll win, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and you don't think that's happening anymore?
I'm just not so sure, Skip. Like you said, the three-point line just makes such a difference. Like you said, if you're not hot from 3, you know, Jason Tatum hasn't been shooting the ball in particularly well, and you know it's just tough to get a rhythm on the USA team because you have so many guys. Do you say, hey, look, we're going to play through LeBron? You know, do you define that and say, hey, you guys fall into place? Because everybody feels like they're the man. And so when you have that type of mentality, it's like, okay, your turn. Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. Now there's no ball movement. There's no extra passes.
Absolutely.
Which we saw from South Sudan. They was on the string. Boom, boom, boom. Find the open guys. And the U.S. second unit plays like that a little more than the first unit.
Yeah. And look, there's no question that LeBron has been handed the keys to this team. I don't think it's a question at all.
That's an amazing statement you just made.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that he's turning 40 later this year.
Yeah.
And we all remember Kobe's last Olympics when he was like 6 or 7 years younger, and he acquitted himself fine. It's not like Kobe had a bad Olympics, but he was definitely sort of the elder statesman on the team, and the younger guys were the bigger, you know, sort of presence in those Olympic team and those Olympic games. That's not LeBron here. And I thought it was interesting what Steve Kerr said when they were going after the game about going into the second half. He said that the decision to start the more defensive unit, he said LeBron was clearly ticked off, he said. He said you could see him when I looked down the bench, you could see him chafing to get back in the lineup. And I think things like that are the things that motivate LeBron James and are still motivating him at nearly 40 years old. As for the lineups, Paul, the Embiid question is going to be the biggest thing I think that they have to face. I know that they really love the Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis combination in that second unit and are loath to break that up. So I don't know what they're going to do there. I don't think in general, though, the lineup is the reason that they came so close to losing this game. They didn't play defense for much of the first half. And every player you just named can play at least some defense.
Well, I don't think the lineup is built. This lineup is not built for defense. And what I mean by that is, yes, can Embiid guard his man one-on-one in the post? Yeah, he can do a pretty good job. But in international play where they put you in a lot of rotations, when you got LeBron, Curry, and Embiid, and it's causing you to run from one side of the court constantly to the other side of the court, it's really not to their advantage. So I think they need a little more speed in that aspect. So, you know, maybe start Bam instead of Embiid and put Bam with a faster perimeter unit.
Good.
You know what I mean? So just as a whole, that group, the switching is different because you can't ask Embiid to switch on the guards all night long. His best defensive prowess is in the lane.
Yeah.
You want to keep him right there. Whereas Anthony Davis, you could kind of venture out on the perimeter, guard some of the point guards, the wingmen, Bam also. So it's a decision they might have to make based on who they're playing.
Yeah.
You know, it may not be the same starting lineup which we've seen in the exhibition season. You know, they've changed it up. So maybe we'll see the same thing in the Olympics.
Well, Steve Kerr does have the ultimate designated defender because he went to Drew Holiday for the last possession.
Oh, man.
But Carly got a step on him because he got in the lane, and then Anthony Davis bothered the shot, right? By the way, before we leave LeBron behind, I would like to congratulate him because he was voted by all the USA athletes to be the flag bearer at the opening ceremonies for the entire USA contingent, not just for basketball, but for everybody. And the opening ceremonies are Friday night, and I think that is richly deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's our most recognizable American, probably one of the most recognizable people in all of the world. So, I mean, it makes sense.
It's voted on by their peers. It's voted on by the other U.S. Olympians. It usually goes to someone who's played in multiple Olympics, a veteran. And we'll see a female flag bearer also named in the next couple days. But LeBron is the first male basketball player ever from Team USA to have this honor. And when you think about the guys who have played basketball for Team USA, that he's the first one, I mean, it really is a substantial thing. I did want to make a point, though. You mentioned about Royale Ivey.
Yeah.
Royale Ivey, right? The previous coach, the last time that they were really bothered by an African country was Nigeria, and that was Coach Mike Brown, obviously decorated coach of the year, right? These teams, even the ones that are, quote, bad, not as good, 40-point underdogs, whatever you want to say, like they're influenced by the NBA game so much, the Luol Dengs, all of those guys, that again, there is no cakewalk anymore, even with LeBron James.
Okay, so we have to play in real games that count. We open with Serbia next Sunday.
Okay.
And it's obviously Joker. And then 3 days later on Wednesday, we have to deal with these guys, with South Sudan in our group play before we get to Puerto Rico, okay? So it's not a cakewalk. These games, and you've got to get out of group play to get to this single elimination, obviously.
And the one concern for me, which South Sudan presented, is they could have presented possibly a blueprint on maybe how to defeat the U.S. Hey, move the ball, make the extra pass, let's play fast, get threes up, because they're just not that athletic out front, you know.
Well, this is going to be a very different team once Kevin Durant is playing also. We just kind of have to remember that.
They also get older, Rach.
Yeah, they do.
They get a lot older.
I agree.
And so, and on top of that these teams are not afraid. This is like their year.
That's probably the number one thing.
That's
they're
the
just
number
not
one.
afraid. They're not intimidated.
They're not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to take a picture with LeBron and Katie after the game, but all that before the game, they're not doing that. Like the Dream Team, they came up taking pictures in the layup line. Like, here, let's take a picture now before the game's over. They're like, we'll wait till after the game.
Yeah. I wish Keyshawn were here to defend his man, Ant-Man, because I got to tell you, I know it's just a practice game, but Anthony Edwards did not show up. He was not into it. Isn't he our youngest? I assume he's our youngest player.
Yeah.
So he just was like, nah. He took your attitude of, nah.
Against them. They just took them lightly.
Yeah, right.
The whole team did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the whole team did.
The whole team did. When you come in and but see, the thing is, South Sudan has NBA DNA, and that's what they should have recognized, where I didn't. I didn't realize who fingerprints was all on this Royal Ivy, Luol Deng, you know, Wenyen Gabriel, you know, they have DNA over there, and I didn't realize that. So my apologies again, South Sudan.